What is the greatest comeback to an insult you've ever heard? A friend in high school on our way to a track meet. He was staring at a car in the parking that was really nice. When this bag saw him. Bag, why bothering looking at that when you know you'll never be able to get one? My friend, the same reason you watch porn. The entire bus erupted, and it's still one of the funniest things I've ever heard. A dude in my class called out a semi-friend of mine that people are talking behind his back. In fact, that wasn't the case, as far as I know. And that guy said, well, you know what they say about you? Nothing. Nobody ducking cares. I'm just impressed that you're friends with a semi. Autobots, roll out. It's gotta be the aliens locker room scene for me. Hudson, hey Vasquez. Have you ever been mistaken for a man? Vasquez, no. Have you? Edit, brain derped with the film title. That's what immediately came to my mind as well. Overheard by me, the school bus driver. One 5th grade student was belittling a 1st grader when it was time for a comeback. 1st grader shouts out, "Congratulations." The bewildered 5th grader had nothing to say and went to sit down with her friends in the back of the bus. Okay, that's kind of ducking adorable. Context: John Oliver from HBO interviews Stephen Hawking. May he rest in peace, Joe. And there may be a universe where I'm more intelligent than you. There may even be a universe where you are funny. I lost count of how many times I've seen that video and it still makes me laugh. The whole interview is just hilarious. Got link? So there was 2 girls fighting, and one of them looks at my sister who was minding her own busyness and says, "You go to hell too, my sister. Do you want me to say anything to your mom?" My sister started saying go to hell as a moody, often rude teenager. She is a couple of years older than me. One day she said it to me after she'd been chastised by our dad for something she had done. I usually shrugged of her insults because they were meaningless. This day, however, I retorted, "Why would I go anywhere you are?" I'm still pleased at my 13-year-old brain for that one. I do remember her slamming her bedroom door as her comeback. Joe Pine interviewing Frank Zappa. Joe, I guess your long hair makes you a woman. FZ, I guess your wooden leg makes you a table. Apostrophe. How does a dude named Pine have a wooden leg? What if it's mahogany or oak? Hahaha, I didn't even think about that. Good stuff. Many years ago, when we were about 18, a friend of mine was arguing with another person we knew. This person was trying to be a badass and intimidate my buddy. He says me feet are registered. Without missing a beat, my friend replies where? Health and sanitation. 40 years later I still crack up at this when it comes to mind. What does my feet are registered mean? He meant that he was an expert martial artist who had to register with law enforcement because his feet were lethal. In reality, they were, but only because he stunk from infrequent bathing. David Letterman, I'm not as dumb as I look. Tina Fey, how could you be? I miss Tina Fey in movies. 30 Rock made me question if I may not have a thing for older women at that time. At least 90%, because she's so funny and likable. I asked my mother why she always wears makeup despite being in her 40s. She told me she wears makeup so she doesn't look like me. Edit, I was 9. Savage. Ruthless. I used to work with this like 70-year-old woman. She was a supervisor. And one day one of the ladies who worked with us told this old lady to kiss my ass, and the old lady replied, "Where do I start? You're so fat your crack goes all the way up your back." Gran. How many times do we have to tell you, we are not a crematorium? When you deal out sick burns like that, you can make any place a crematorium. A guy makes fun of his bald friend by rubbing his head and saying, "Wow, your head is as smooth as my wife's bottom." The friend also rubs his head and says, "Wow, you're right." Apostrophe. That had to hurt. That's a lot of damage. English class in middle school. Kid A, yo. Kid B, your mama waited on me at McDonald's last night. Must feel like shit having a mom that works at McDonald's. Kid B, at least my mom gets out of bed to go to work. English teacher far louder than he realized. Damn, The rest of us were laughing so hard. The teacher next door popped her head in to see what was going on. I love it when the entire class laughs enough to bother the teacher next door. If you weren't so stupid, what would you be? Asks the husband. The wife replies, without even skipping a beat, single. Haha. Love it. Nice one. Someone yelled out in a Walmart, I'm not ashamed of who I am. Another voice echoed back, that's your parents' job. Back in middle school I was at Walmart with a friend of mine looking for pants. Being a tomboy, I like to wear baggy boys pants. Nor did I wear Macup. Another kid came up to me and snarkily asked PFFD, what are you? A boy or a girl? And without missing a beat I responded, why? Do you think him hot? He just got flustered and walked away mumbling obscenities. This was the 90s, so that gender question actually was insulting to my 14-year-old brain. Not the greatest, but I still hold pride for my quick wit back then. Too bad that's all gone now. For some reason everyone in high school thought I was a lesbian. So a straight dude in my grade walked by me and was trying to make fun of me / gay bash and said, well, at least I don't like girls. I just kinda stared at him and waited for it to click. /view 200D. Definitely a great comeback, but not to an insult, more to an annoyance. I was a camp counselor for a few years at a summer camp. One day my group took a hike to a large rock where we had lunch. My campers were between 8 and 10 years old. This one kid we'll call Jeff keeps poking another kid we'll call Matt in my group to look at this hole in the rock. It's so cool. It's like 6 inches deep and the other kid is clearly getting annoyed just trying to eat his lunch. He keeps shoving sticks into the hole and trying to get everybody to look at it. Finally Matt just puts down his sandwich, looks at Jeff, and goes, I'll be 6 inches deep in your mom later if you don't shut up. I was trying so hard to be stern with this kid for saying something so inappropriate, but I kept cracking up. It was just such a disproportionately ridiculous thing to say coming from a 9-year-old. To be fair, those are impressive numbers from a 9-year-old or someone on Reddit. 18th century British radical politician John Wilkes was told in Parliament by a political opponent, sir, I do not know whether you will die on the gallows or of the pox. Wilkes shot back with, that depends, my lord, on whether /0 I embrace your lordship's principles or your mistress. Apostrophe. Imagine hitting someone with such a burn that people are discussing it 250 years later. Even better, ancient Greece. Philip II preparing to invade Sparta. You are advised to submit without further delay. For if I bring my army into your land, I will destroy your farms, slay your people, and raze your city. Sparta's reply, if neither Philip II nor his son Alexander the Great attempted to conquer Sparta. My grandma got into a fight at the grocery store with a guy who told my 9-year-old brother to move the duck out of the way. They were going at it, and his final words were, suck my dick, bitch. She said across the store, if I could find it. Bitch. Edit, not Walmart. Even better, Aldi. Grammar don't play. Hash's always trying to fight somebody. On a construction site one afternoon, different trades were working in the same area. Like silly team sports. The Sparkers always hang with the Sparkers and the Turd Wranglers always hang with the Turd Wranglers, and anytime they're together it turns into a pointless dick measuring contest, usually not literally. One particularly childish exchange saw two men chopping back and forth, my dick biggest. Blah blah blah. Finally one of them spits out this classic, I've got girth like a can of con. And the clap back was unforgettable, but you've got length like a can of tuna. Everyone busted up. Mr. Girth tried to hide his embarrassment, but was tied up. No comeback. And a room of men laughing uncontrollably. Good times. I must know the other names for the rest of the trades. Carpenters are chippies. There's a story about Margaret Asquith, a British socialite and author, meeting Jean Harlow and correcting Harlow's mispronunciation of her first name. No, the T is silent, as in Harlow. There's a story about Margaret Asquith, a British socialite and author, meeting Jean Harlow and correcting Harlow's mispronunciation of her first name. No, the T is silent, as in Harlow. Same era, I guess. Roughly, an actor and a writer who hated each other were meeting some executive and waiting in his office together. Cold silence between them till the writer said, "Your face has deep lines. Your writing doesn't," was the instant reply. "What are you looking at?" I'm still trying to find out. When I used to say, "What are you looking at?" to my mum, she used to say, "I don't know." The label fell off. Apostrophe. I used to respond with good question. Chelsea Handler told Russell Brand, "The way you are looking at me makes me want to cover my vagina." He replied, "Mom, if I had a rubber glove, I'd do it for you." Crowd burst into laughter and she even acknowledged that was good. Chelsea Handler was doing a difficult interview with Kevin Spacey, so she offered him a Vicodin and he answered, "Do you have any left?" During WW1, Switzerland had a tiny standing army, but they were very skilled marksmen. Wilhelm II of Germany asked what 250k Swiss troops would do if he decided to invade with 500k German troops. The Swiss said, "Shoot twice and go home." Apostrophe. Switzerland is actually neutral now, in part because they were such good fighters. Many European countries hired Swiss mercenaries to fight for them. At least, that's what I heard in a YouTube video. Yeah. But nowadays is just to avoid getting wrecked by any enemy Switzerland might face, since it is in the middle of Europe and with a very small army. I was the one insulted, but not the one with the comeback. I was out with a co-worker and her friends and my buddy and I were leaving a little too early for her sensibilities. She jokingly got up in my face and said, "Smell that? Smells like pussy." A guy playing at the pool table next to us stepped forward and said, "I'm sorry, that must be me. I just ate. It was amazing." Smoothworth. Got him. That man knew what he was doing. I expected a better insult from someone of your upbringing and education. Lol, my mom was a librarian and pulled this one on a rude patron. Are you getting smart with me? Would you be able to tell? Savage librarians are my favorite thing in the world. Quiet guy in my art class got called queerbait. He replied with, "If I'm the bait then you're the catch of the day." My 10-year-old cousin was pushed aside by an older student at school who also felt the need to call him a gay child. My cousin told him not to get his hopes up. "You wish" became the kryptonite to gay jokes in my elementary school for a while growing up. Glenn McGrath, Aussie cricketer, got frustrated with Ed O'Brands as his every attempt to stump Brands failed. This is what happened next. McGrath: "Why are you so fat, Brands?" "Because every time I duck your wife, she gives me a biscuit. I always liked Marsh v Bottom." "Marsh, how's your wife and my 2 kids?" Bottom replies, "The wife's fine. The kids are retarded though. I read this aloud to my family. Daughter, how could you say that in good conscience about your own kids?" Wife: "I say it all the time. That joke is turning out to be the gift that keeps on giving." Edit: "You may not have this guy's dead wife." Not heard, but read. Easily the Spartans reply to Philip II of Macedon, as Philip II of Macedon was conquering Greek city-states left and right. Sparta was left alone. Philip had achieved a crushing victory, and Sparta was relatively weak and without walls. Philip sent a message to the Spartans saying, "If I invade Laconia you will be destroyed, never to rise again." The Spartans replied with one word: "If." This is actually where the word laconic came from. Most ancient accounts make the Spartans sound like the masters of trash talk. The Persians also told them at one point their arrows would blot out the sun, and a Spartan replied that it'd be nice to fight in the shade. Also, it's a long repeated response. But when they were told to lay down their arms, their response was, which roughly translates to "come and take them." I've been called worse things by better people. For context, this was famously said by former Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau when he found out Richard Nixon called him an asshole. I didn't know that. That's awesome. My friend's mom said it when her son called her a bitch. On an Indian roast show, there were 2 bald twin brothers and the roaster told them, "You 2 confuse me on a biological level. You 2 look like testicles, but you are both assholes." I'm still waiting for an opportunity to use that. Reminds me of Rodney Dangerfield talking to the bald twins in Easy Money. "Why don't you 2 put your heads together and make an ass of yourselves?" Me, we should learn from our mistakes. My friend, so that's why you have a younger sister? Greatest comeback to an insult, greatest non-instigated insult. I said that to him after he made a stupid mistake in a highly anticipated basketball game, so I kinda provoked him. Should vaded that but duck it. A friend of mine was getting bitched at by these two identical twin girls in a class I had once. He replied with a troubling look on his face and said, if you two are identical, how come only one of you are hot? That dude played the long game as those two girls looked rather perplexed for the rest of the session. Fixed. I have something similar. Have a group text made up of 5 people. It's called 3 of my favorite people. When I only had one granddaughter, I always told her she was my second favorite granddaughter. When the second one came along, she told me now I'm third. Right? You sure do talk a lot for never saying anything. Apostrophe. In Mexico, we use the word cantinflea for that. It comes from a comedian with a long career from the 30s to the 80s named Cantinflas, and that was his shtick. Talking too much, but never saying anything. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.